All right, y'all, what's up? Welcome to the Hive. This is your boy, Greg B, GM of the NSL Hornets. What you guys been up to? All right, so we are trying to just go with the flow right about now. We're about three quarters of the way through the season, and it's been an amazing ride. I came into this league and I honestly didn't know what to expect. It's been a while. I left the NLL amidst controversy, and to be quite honest, I needed a break. I was just in the middle of moving to another country. I left the States, moved to the Philippines, and was trying to reorganize my business. And it was just a lot going on. And I had a plan for where I wanted that team to go at the time, which was the Heat. We had a lot of expiring contracts, guys potentially retiring and stuff like that. And so I had a plan to basically just get through the season and basically stack up GM points and then clean up in free agency, which had been my MO previously in the past, at some point or another. And it just got to be too much. And then, there was also a lot of tension between me and Dave because we had a we were fellow GMs in the league, but we also dealt with each other outside the league in a semi business perspective. And between the way his personality functions in the league, it's actually in overdrive when it comes to dealing with him outside of the league and some other capacities. And it just became really too much to bear. So what happened is I approached the league and offered to step down and then come back for the following season because I wasn't able to run the team effectively. And this is where I went to them before I got to the point where I was going to get fired. I kind of went to them before that point. And basically, I was told that if I wasn't going to be able to run the team or wasn't going to be able to meet the requirements, then I was going to be terminated anyway. So, feeling like somebody had spit in my face, I basically just said, "Don't fuck it." I got too much other stuff to worry about. I'm not gonna cry about it. I got over a decade invested into this community, but if I'm going to be tossed aside, like I just in a word, I felt like I had enough clout to where I should have been able to step away and be able to come back at my leisure and just kind of pick up things where I left off. But apparently that wasn't the case. And then I had some loose communication with a few GMs in the NLL, and I just kept hearing these stories about supposedly how bad of a GM I was. Dave was throwing me under the bus, and this was being said, and that was being said. And I just was like, I was really kind of put off by it, but I was just like, whatever. There's a little bit of saltiness there because of not being able to get me to do what was wanted by this person or that person, not just within the league, but outside the league. And I just kind of wrote it off. And then I think the last straw for me is I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the sport before anything else, which makes me a fan of the league. So of course, periodically I would hit the site and kind of see what was going on, who was doing what, and stuff like that. And I hit the site one day, and it was a poll about who was the worst GM in the league ever, historically. And I saw my name on there and had like total freaking meltdown. I text Penny and just kind of went nuts because at this point I wasn't talking to Dave anymore. I went nuts on Penny, and the reason why is because um, the GMs like Dave, Penny, and to a certain extent, Tim knew the type of strategies that I would be implementing when it came to team building. And so with that, they know that my GM style is not bad. My GM style is not necessarily all or nothing, but it's just calculated, not based off of emotion. So when I came into the league, I did a lot of emotion based trading. Oh, I got to have this player, I got to have that player. But as I got more experience, my GMing became more calculated, simply because it's not my GM mode where you can just kind of make anything happen you want. You really kind of have to work within the emotional, mental state of the other GMs in the league. And so what I ended up doing is I unofficially became like the player garbage collector. So basically, I would communicate with different GMs to find out which players they didn't want. And then I would say, okay, well, if you don't want this guy, maybe I can use him on my team, or maybe I can find another team that can use him. And so basically, I would be flipping players based off of what people did not want. And so I really just kind of worked that angle until I finally got to the team I really wanted to begin with, was Miami Heat. I finally worked my way from Utah to Brooklyn to Miami, and I carried all three of those teams to the playoffs at one point, just trying to be competitive. It wasn't as important to me to win the title as it was to just be competitive. My first 5 years in the league were all horrible. I don't know if you guys remember, but like Smokey and Leroy and Linus up Leroy around when I first came in the league, and I had Ron Artest right after the Malice in the Palace, and so I had Ron Artest, Stephon Marbury, and I had Jamal Tinsley, and so in theory, I was like, okay, well, that's a great three to work with. You got Jamal Tinsley's defense, Marbury's scoring, and then you got Artest's two-way play. And so that was something I felt I could work with. I figured that at that point, you can just kind of throw in some bigs and be competitive and just kind of go from there. Artest got suspended because of the Malice in the Palace. He goes to Chicago, and then he gets suspended there. Jamal Tinsley was constantly hurt. I was going through players left and right, mainly because of really odd injury situations. I ended up getting Sharif Abdul-Rahim just before his knees gave out on him. It was just a constant cycle of deals that didn't work out. They weren't bad deals, they just didn't work out. Draft picks. I think at one point I drafted Channing Frye, I drafted Danny Granger. There's a few other people, like, honestly, I can't remember. I've had Rip Hamilton, Andre Miller, Kobe Bryant. I've had a lot of good players on those teams, the Utah team, but just nothing was ever really just working out. And so I finally got to the point where me and Nick got to talking, and Nick was obsessed with Kobe Bryant. And so in a deal that most people thought was bizarre at the time, I traded Kobe Bryant to Nick for Richard Jefferson and a glitching Kevin Martin. And the idea was that, okay, well, Kevin Martin is glitching, and I think that I can get similar punch production out of him as I did with Kobe, but without the gigantic salary. At the time, Kobe's salary was like 30 million or something like that. It was insane. So I figured I could kind of make it with that. And somewhere along the line, I acquired David West before he became Mr. Efficient David West. He was on this really cool contract that actually went down year by year. The problem with him is he stayed hurt. Those first couple of years, he stayed hurt. And Kevin Martin was constantly hurt. And I managed to package several players and got KG. So I'm thinking, okay, I got something here. I got KG's mid-range game, and I got Kevin Martin's three-point game. Now all I need is a third player that can kind of help bridge the gap between the two of them, and then maybe I can get some magic happening, right? So I get into the off season, and I had a personal problem. Was it then? I think it was then. Yeah, I think around that time I went to jail. I was in jail for a little while, and I was communicating with Dave about who I wanted to draft, and so that was the Blake Griffin draft. And so I had Kevin Martin, I had Kevin Garnett, and it turned out that I ended up with the number 2 pick, and I was just like, okay, this is terrible. I was like, well, if I can't get Blake Griffin, then there's no point. You know, Blake Griffin was a guy that was going to change the franchise. Every other player was just another player on, would be on the roster. It wouldn't help me. Now, I was 5 years in. I didn't want to be in the lottery anymore. I wanted to make the playoffs. I was fed up with the losses. So I am released for jail. I think I was in jail for like 30 days. So it's still the off season. I get released from jail, and there's this huge debate about who I'm going to pick, because you had, at the time, the projected number 2 pick was the Beat, and then Harding was projected 3rd, and I was like, well, the Beat, I just don't feel like he was going to be these super tall guys, these super tall centers. I just don't think that they ever really pan out the way that you would think they would pan out. I felt like it was going to be a wasted pick. But I didn't need Harding because Harding was essentially Kevin Martin, but no experience. And I know it's ridiculous as that sounds right now. When you are like desperate for the next level, you're trying to figure out a way to make this thing work. I was like, okay, well, Harding, and at this point, after 5 years, my patience was done. So I got to looking around I said, I need a player that's ready now. I need a ready now player. I need someone that's going to contribute to wins, not be in development mode. And I got to talking with Tim, and we worked out with some matter of trepidation a Rudy Gay for Harding swap. Rudy Gay was about to have his rookie extension kick in, so he was going to be, his salary was going to be almost double, I think, in the following season. And I think the Tim wanted to reduce potential cap, but stay competitive. And so we agreed to the trade. It was already known that Blake was going to go number 1, so because she was hell bent on drafting Blake, and so it was really just a matter of me either drafting the Beat or drafting Harding. So I was pretty sure I was going to draft Harding, even though there were a few things in his scouting report that I didn't like, and that also contributed to the reason why I drafted. I was so keen to trade him. I just didn't think that he would be the kind of glitch player that Kevin Martin was at that time. So we get to the draft. I draft James Harden, and I get with Tim, and Tim says he no longer wants to do the trading. I said, what the fuck? I had it all figured out, how this team was just gonna rock with freaking Kevin Garnett's defense, rebounding, mid-range game, Kevin Martin knocking down threes, and then you got Rudy Gay slashing to the basket, causing all kinds of havoc, and just making, I figured the team would easily score well into 100 plus points a game. All I really needed was a ball handler and someone to grab, rebounds and block shots. So there was a heated exchange with me and Tim over the course of a couple of days because I just was just like, fuck it. I think I if I'm not mistaken, I think I threatened to quit. I was just fed up with the losses and not really feeling competitive and things like that. So, and I was also really offended that he would change his mind on the day of the trade. So he finally agreed to the trade, and I now had a playoff team, and it's funny now, because Kevin Martin is not a superstar, but he was glitching, and that team, I think that team was the first team ever to have three All-Stars. Kevin Martin, Rudy Gay, and Kevin Garnett all made the All-Star team. I think I had at one point I had Brad Miller as the center and Keon Dooley as a point guard, and then Brad Miller went down and ended up with the Birdman as the center. And the center and the point guard were not really pivotal to the process. They were really just people that were insert player here type guys to kind of just be on the court with these other three guys that were going to be racking up points. And so those three guys didn't make the All-Star team, but Rudy missed the second half of the season because of shoulder issue. So we made the playoffs, so we got bounced in the first round. I felt like it was progress. I was happy. I was like, fuck, finally made the playoffs. Okay, cool. So we go into the next season. I can't remember the moves I made in the off season. It was basically just more insert player here things. And I think we got 50 wins the next season. I think Rudy did have injuries again. And of course, Kevin Martin had injuries because he was just a walk in the hospital. But we did make the playoffs again. And I can't remember if it was in the second round or I think it was the second round. There was a problem with the patch. And so, because we were doing this, we were making these changes to the patch every game. So we were making these changes to the patch, and then for some reason, my game I can't even remember who I played at the time. I guess someone had to go, the Wayback Machine and look. But the patch didn't have the right version of my roster, and I got blown out. I got blown out in 2 games and lost the series. I was just furious, and I had mentioned that, hey, that's not the right patch and stuff like that. So I went back and forth with Dave about it. It wasn't something that I made public. I think just Dave and Tim and one other person knew that I was complaining about this thing, and so I was just like, fuck it. I was done. I was actually done with the league. And so I was done with the league because I was just like, fuck it, it's too frustrating. And the 2 guys that, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think either the year prior or this, because I didn't quit, obviously. I think either the year prior or the year after that is when I became an admin. But I think it was the year prior I was an admin. And then I remember because that the year prior is when we introduced a rule where you could change teams. And part of the qualification for changing teams was that you your old team had to be a playoff team. So in other words, they didn't want you to leave a shit team behind and then go and presumably fuck up another team or whatever. So I just, like I said, I was pretty much done, and I had a conversation with Dave, and Dave was really snarky about what happened with the team, and then he started pestering me about trading for a couple of guys that I had on my roster. And that was kind of really the thing with me and Dave. Dave would be telling me, oh, this player sucks. You don't want him. And then he would pressure me to death to get the player. And then if I ended up moving the player in another deal, he would pressure that GM to death to get that player. And I would see players from my team on Dave's team at some point or another. And that was really how I ended up with Kobe Bryant. I ended up with Kobe Bryant because he pressured me to death to get Rip Hamilton. And I was like, the only way I would trade Rip Hamilton is if I was going to get like a superstar player. And I just threw out Kobe Bryant. And so I think at the time, Kobe was on the Lakers, and he pressured that GM to get involved with a three-way trade. And I think that trade, the centerpieces of that trade was Iverson, Rip Hamilton, and Kobe Bryant. Okay, so I can't remember the other throw-in players that were involved, but for some reason he wanted to move on from Iverson, and that was how that went. So I ended up, I just because he was pestering me, and I wanted the chance to beat him, to shut him up, because like every move that he made, he would like confer with me first, and then ask me, which lineups he should use and stuff like that. So I was just like, you know what, fuck that. I'm gonna pick a different team, and I'm going to fucking kick his ass. And around that time is the Nets opened. I think they were still in New Jersey at the time. It was just before the switch to Brooklyn. So that team was already stacked. It had Wade and Stat and God, I think Kidd, a couple other players or something like that, or some facsimile of that. I know Wade was definitely still there. I can't remember for sure what the other guys were there. So I jumped on that, and I did the one thing that I always frown on. I frown on trading for your favorite player. And I traded for, at some point or another, I hounded the next Utah GM for Kevin Garnett. I think he ended up trading Kevin Garnett to another GM, and then I traded with that GM to get KG because I still wanted that mid-range element. That's at the time the mid-range jumper was just something that was still underrated, and it was a really high percentage shot for KG at the time. Plus, he was just a little bit quicker than most other forwards at the time. He was really the first prototypical stretch four. He didn't go all the way out to three-point range, but because he had that little elbow jumper, he was able to create lanes on the floor. And if you had drivers or slashers or whatever, they could kind of get easy baskets. And so pairing him with Wade was just, that dream come true, because the games complement each other in a video game environment, because of course there's no way he doesn't really shoot threes, and he's purest slasher as you'll find next to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant when it comes to these video game profiles. And I went with that team for a couple years, and then Miami opened up, and then I jumped to Miami. Again, both teams, Utah was in the playoffs, Brooklyn was in the playoffs, which precipitated my switch, and then we're getting close to where I wanted to make a move to another country. So this is like 2 years in. I'm 2 years away from making a move to the Philippines, which was something that was on my radar. And I decided to ride the roster, to really just kind of ride it until the wheels fell off, simply because we had a lot of expiring contracts on that deal. Miraculously at the time, Tim Duncan had decided to stay one more year. And so it was just like, okay, I think that this team can make a deep playoff run. And even if they don't make a deep playoff run, they will be in position to clean up in free agency, because then the record was such a factor in whether you got free agents or not, that you walk into free agency with cap space, no better players, and a ton of GM points. You can just kind of pick and choose who you want. You almost don't even need GM points when you have no better players and and plenty of cap. So it was just kind of an ideal scenario. But this thing is just, I kept missing deadlines on requirements because of preparation for the move, and then the move, and then I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life all the time at the time. That was also a factor, and so I just ran out of time to manage the team, and so I was missing all these participation deadlines. And so before I got to the point where I was going to be fired, that's where I went to them. I was like, okay, well, look, you know what? This is what I got going on. I was living in the Philippines at the time of the split between me and the NSL, and I was like, look, you know, like I mentioned earlier in this session, I just want to take a step away while I get myself sorted. And of course, apparently this was the time that Dave decided he could get rid of me without too much of a hassle. And I think that his desire to get rid of me may have been because during my Brooklyn tenure, a lot of GMs were kind of fed up with the way that Dave was running things. And I had been approached by multiple GMs that if I would ask Dave to step down and take over the league as basically the lone admin. I think at the time it was just Dave, and even though Dave was the only admin, Tim was sort of like unofficially an admin, but I just think that Dave's heavy-handed way of doing things was just grating on so many people. They had been asked if I would consider talking to him about stepping down as an admin, not leaving the league, but just allowing someone else to take the reins. And I was just like, there's no way I could do that. I mean, I thought about it for a minute, but I was like, there's no way that he would step down. He would never do it. He would never agree to it. And so I think that I floated the idea to him one day. We were talking and he was just going on about how stressful it all was. And I floated the idea of taking a break. So I was like, hey, so did you ever think about taking a break? Just kind of taking it easy, for a few months or maybe the whole season, just kind of rewind. And he was just like, no way. He was just like, he'd rather quit and see the league die than to take any type of role other than as the commissioner of the league. And I was like, that's pretty extreme, but you should give it some thought. Just because I know it's stressful and you kind of manage like all of this crap. Even though he was delegating things out to people for GM points, he was still pretty much the head honcho at the time. And I think that shortly after that, he reopened up the admin to different people. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got wind of that. Probably from Boyd. I've been trying to remember Boyd's name now for like the last 6 months, and now I finally remember. Yeah, Boyd was Dave's piss on buddy, I guess that's not a really nice thing to say, but Boyd was just. I don't know how to describe Boyd, but I'm sure you guys know Boyd, and I don't know if it's not or not. But I'm thinking that somewhere along the line that maybe him or Penny kind of mentioned that people were trying to get me to take over the league from Dave, and that's not really the way I looked at it. I just felt that if he did take a break, that maybe someone else would have a chance to shine. It definitely wasn't going to be me because I just never really had the time for all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make these leagues work, and I just didn't really see it as something that I would be able to do. But I think that there was some motivating factor there um, in regards to pushing me out because that's how I felt. I felt pushed out. I could be wrong, but I definitely felt targeted, and so. But with that, I just kind of it's like fuck it, I got other stuff to do in my life. I just moved to another country. That comes with its own challenges. I'm running an online business that comes with its own challenges. So the league, even though I knew I was going to miss it, I didn't shed a tear. I moved on, and then like I said, I checked in from time to time, and on through the situation with COVID, and then me reaching out to Mauricio, just checking on him because I had read how COVID was just basically bonkers in Brazil. I checked on my homeboy, and he told me about the actually he had told me about the league sometime before. He told me about the league when you guys were first starting up, and I think I had mentioned to him like, hey, once that gets going, maybe I'll check it out. But it was just I was really just kind of being polite. I wasn't all that serious because I just knew I didn't have time for it. And so when I checked in on him during the COVID outbreak, and I guess you guys had the break, and then the bubble started, and then you guys were in the middle of your playoffs, and so yeah, he was like, yeah, we're in the middle of the playoffs, and I'm going to the finals. The finals had just started, and I was like, what? The finals? Really? You? Okay, cool. Let's check it out. So I was checking out the site, and I was like, okay, you know what? This might be all right. So I was like, dude, you know what? If the team opens up, let me know. I definitely want it. And then, his series with Portland didn't turn out so well. And but I was like, dude, really, I want it. I want it. And Charlotte opened up, and he contacted me. He said, yeah, man, Charlotte's open. And I said, okay, all right, let me see if there's a team I want. So I looked at Charlotte, and I was like, I don't know if I want this team. I want this team because it has a superstar player, but I don't know if I want this team because it had all the young players. And players that I thought, from my point of view, weren't really 2K friendly in the context of how I like for the teams to perform, so to speak. And I said, you know what? Okay, I want that team. I said, I want that team because I figured that which is basically what you guys see, I figured that with Luka's salary being as low as it was, that I could just pack in players around him. I said I probably won't be able to get another superstar player, but I think that I can pack in enough quality players around him so where the team can be reasonably competitive for the coming season, and then the following season, my second year, they could possibly be a contender. Could I be able to flip whatever assets I had into possibly a star player, maybe like a 3-for-1 or something like that. And because to be honest, Luka wouldn't have been my first pick for a player to build around because I don't like for point guards to be the best player on the team, and I prefer for more athletic type players, whether it's a guard or a forward. I prefer for that best player to be a shooting guard or a power forward. This is really kind of my if as far as my strategy goes. I prefer point guards to be pass first, centers to be rebounding defensive monsters, and then for my scorers to be on the wing and possibly with a power forward that can kind of do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that's really kind of where I went with this. With the exception is CP3 has just played far beyond expectations. If you had told me at the end of the season that CP3 would play more games than any player on the team, I would have laughed at you. But knock on wood, CP3 has been the most consistent player on the team. And through a little bit of research, he's crediting his new vegan diet. He's changed what he eats, and he's changed his exercise routine and stuff like that. So that's been a big help to him. And for me, that's freaking awesome because he's been the straw that stirs this particular drink. It's easy to say it's Luka. Clearly, Luka does a lot. He's clearly the best player on the team. Probably top 5 player in the league right now. I think he's number 2 in the MVP rankings on the site right now. But as you guys know, I don't really build around a lot of young talent. I like to compete on the winning side, not so much competing on the development side, because development players is a competition as well. I think that development players is a skill, to know or being able to anticipate how these drafted players are going to develop as a skill that's really just above my head. If he's not an obvious superstar, I'm probably going to miss the boat, so that's why I lean towards more of a known commodities, especially, like I said, the first 5 years of the league were a complete nightmare for me with really bizarre missed player games, melees, the bizarre suspensions, season-long injuries, even the playoff Utah team, dealt with a lot of injuries. Because all 3 of those guys were injury prone to some degree. Kevin Garnett was old. Rudy Gay had his shoulder issues, and Kevin Martin was just gimpy. You just never knew what version of Kevin Martin was going to be available from week to week. So I'm having probably the most fun that I've had in a long time right now. Part of the reason is the team is doing so well. The other part is that I have no responsibility, 0. I'm not a sounding board. I'm not a sounding board for the commish. I'm not. I don't have the inside knowledge of all the rules because I helped make a lot of the rules on the NSL, so I don't have that knowledge. So I don't get a lot of the questions about the rules I used to get before. I used to get a lot of questions about rules before. And because I'm not the trade initiator here that I was in the NLL, I know I have people coming to me and said, hey, I'm looking to move this guy. Is there a deal that you can put together? So I'm basically able to just kind of mind my own business and just kind of enjoy everyone else's fun in regards to how they participate in the league and stuff like that. And I think that this league is definitely better. It's better in the sense that it's loose, and sometimes the teams that play loose do better. I think that the length of time the NLL has been around is definitely credit to how Dave has run it to a good degree. He's technically running with an iron fist, but he has run it in a way that's made it survive to where it is now. I think that the NSL is the evolution of the NLL, where things have taken a step forward in flexibility, which has made it less of a grind. I think that the NLL was definitely a grind. Even when you were competing at a winning level, it was still really a grind. Here, it's not so much to grind. It's really kind of just let's see what happens. That's really the kind of way that I approach it right now. I've had we're 14 weeks in, and I've had 14 different lineups because I've had injuries every week. I've just been fortunate that they haven't really affected me in the win loss column that much. Um, and I think that's just due to the flexibility of the roster. I was lucky and able to get the certain types of players. I was able to get multiple versions. I was able to get multiple players to do the same types of things, so that when one went down, I was able to just kind of shuffle somebody else into that spot and just keep it moving. And I think that that was the key to the team being able to continue to play well even through the injuries. I think we missed 3 weeks of Luka total, and the thing that um, I have more wins than losses without Luka. I don't know the exact total. I think I got like 5 losses to 7 wins or 8 wins or something like that when it comes to playing games without Luka. So it's been a lot of fun. The team's playing really well, and I think that I really need to do the league more justice by being a little more active in regards to participation with articles, video, just a lot of the stuff that I can bring and to help and that evolution continue to grow. I just think that I got so burned out from the NLL grind that I didn't put forth at the level of effort for activity that I have been known for. So I definitely kind of do a little bit more. This little podcast, a little insight to my thinking on my return to the video game fantasy NBA world. I just figured I'd just throw it out there because I have a lot of conversations with guys, and I've heard some horrible things about me. Some horrible things about me. And it's just like, wow, I can't believe it. But it is what it is. So again, thanks for welcoming to this particular league. I'm having a lot of fun. I enjoy all the stuff that's going on here. I enjoy watching you guys converse about how much you guys love, local sport and all your different insights about the sport and players and stuff like that, and different pieces of feedback that I get from everyone in regards to making deals and trades and stuff like that. So it's been a blast. I don't think I'll do another 10 years, but I think I'll be around for a while, and I look forward to competing with you guys in this league, because it's a challenge, and each week I'm checking what's going on with the other teams, not just the teams that are winning, but with the teams that are tanking, because I know that they will be looking to make moves at some point, and some of the tanking teams are really in a position to make a huge leap next season, similar to what Smokey did. Smokey made a massive leap from where he was in the offseason where he is now, and if anyone asks, I would have to say that he's probably GM of the year because he's the biggest turnaround. But I think all the GMs are doing well with what they're trying to do. As there was an article posted, that success is not always measured in wins and losses, but it's measured in, are you accomplishing your goals? Are you achieving what it is that you're trying to accomplish at this point in your GM career within the league? And I think that's a very important factor that gets overlooked, where we get, especially some of us win-oriented GMs, we get too focused on wins and losses being a measure of success. And for me, right now, I just really like to see the team do well. They do well every week. It doesn't even matter to me which players are performing. I can give a rat's but which guy is averaging 30 or which guy went 1 for 10. If it came away with a productive game, even if it was a loss, if they were competitive and one or two things could have made a difference, I feel like that was a successful game. But again, I am really glad to be here to spend an awesome time. I'm looking forward to next season. Whatever happens this season is whatever happens, but next season I really feel like I have a chance to achieve some goals that I have set for myself. And I'm looking forward to competing and also generating some more content, not just podcast related, but video related as well as article related. I think I can contribute to the evolution of this league. Again, thank you. I'm glad you guys took the time to listen. Take it easy and good luck. This is Craig B, GM of the, I almost said New Orleans Hornets. This is GM of the NSL Charlotte Hornets. Peace out. Love you guys.